Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Scary Stories We Tell. I am one of your hosts, Chris.
And I'm the other one, Emma, sometimes.
And we're joined by our good friend on this episode of SurrealTube, where we're taking a look at things on the internet that are surreal. We're joined by our good friend. You've heard him here before, and you'll hear him here again, all the way from parts unknown to your friend and mine, Dustin.
Hi.
Hello.
He has the same energy as me when it comes to introducing myself. Hello.
Hey, not everybody has to be energy level 1000, you know? Let that be a lesson to you, kids. You don't always have to try and be the center of attention. Sometimes you can just exist, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of just existing, on this episode of SurrealTube, we're going to be jumping back into something I wish didn't exist. That thing being...
That's so harsh.
The 5th episode, and 6th episode, and 7th episode, right? We're going to do 3?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we can knock out 3.
Or is it 4? Do we want to do 4?
I guess we'll see how we feel. Play it by ear.
Okay, so I'll mark this part then. And on this episode of SurrealTube, we're going to be taking, once again, another hard look, unfortunately, at everybody's favorite internet monster, salad fingers.
I don't know. I think monster's a little harsh.
I don't. What word would you use to describe salad fingers, Dustin? Given that we've had a little bit of distance in time from this, from salad fingers.
I know what I would say.
Creature, not monster. Creature, because creature can be lovable.
I was gonna say misunderstood.
Oh.
But we could also go for scrimblow, scrunkle, scrunkly, scrimblow. I think also fits, which is a Gen Z term that I'm not explaining.
Okay, yeah, because I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
He's not that much of a blorbo, but he is quite...
Are you being serious right now?
I'm actually being completely 110% serious. You can look that up on Urban Dictionary later.
Wait. Are you being serious about all of them or some of them?
Everything I have said is true.
Okay. All right. I mean, fair. So...
Shout out to every Gen Z in the audience and or millennial that's chronically online.
Yeah, apparently. So, Emma, for those listeners that maybe don't know what salad fingers is, give us a quick re-update or re-primer on what anyone listening to this or who knows what salad fingers is can to hear and listen to us talk about when we talk about salad fingers.
So salad fingers, as we spoke about in the first episode, was originally a Newgrounds animation. It was one of those that was creepy for creepy's sake, playing around with, Flash at the time when that was very new for, the everyday person to have access to. And a lot of people made some really cool, surreal, strange, creepy content. And I think this one is so infamous for that reason. You can definitely expect a lot of really weird voices, occasional high-pitched sounds and jump scares, and a lot of things that will make you generally uncomfortable. But that's the intention, and it does it real well.
Boy, isn't it? Like that for me, I think, is the thing that cannot be overstated, is this is creepy intentionally, and it's doing a very good job of it. So, yikes. All right. Well, I think without further ado, one might say, we'll take a look at the 5th episode of Salad Fingers, titled Picnic. It has 8.2 million views, and it was posted a long time ago, 14 years ago. So here we go.
Brushing you up on your internet history.
Yeah, right?
So how do you feel about those mouth words?
That was like the most disturbing one yet to me. Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the kids, again, is like, you said that there will be mythology at some point, yes?
Yeah. There starts to be slightly more of a cohesive narrative as you go. All of these are sort of meant to kind of world build slightly, right, and introduce, what these characters kind of are, but mostly, what Salad Fingers is.
We're not there yet, though, right?
It's setting the stage. I think we're still in setting the stage and theory territory.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know, because again, like with shows like this, it's sometimes kind of hard to interpret what is meant to be interpreted and what is just weird for the sake of weird. And that's something we kind of have to navigate here, given that this is coming out 14 years ago.
Yeah, when people obviously had no idea how to make a story 14 years ago.
No, it's more an issue of this kind of entertainment people aren't expecting it to have a cohesive narrative.
Right.
I mean, Charlie the Unicorn, it doesn't have the staying power of this because when you watch this, you have to and can watch more things to get more of it. Charlie the Unicorn is like a one-note bit over and over again. Like, again, that was more my question because, again, there are some of this things that is just weird for weird's sake and it's not meant to mean anything. So I just didn't know if we were there yet or if the things we were seeing like should be over interpreted, I guess.
So is Charlie the Unicorn in Salad Fingers canon? Is that who he called his friend Charlie?
Wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I would watch that, right?
Oh yeah, I would watch a crossover. Are you kidding?
It's interesting to me that they keep bringing the kids back. You know, like I mean, like again, I'm wondering where they're going with that, but like it's very clear that like Salad Fingers has something to do with kids, or has like maybe attraction isn't the right word, but an infatuation maybe.
I would agree with that. I also think it's important to note that the kid character the little girl that is introduced in this episode, I think she is the most articulate and most quote unquote normal character we've encountered thus far.
True.
Yeah, comparatively.
I
mean, there was the little child character from the previous episode just went like,
exactly.
Like, yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to get from that, but that seems like that's just weird for weirdness sake. Like that specifically, like again, those kinds of things. It's like, all right, we're just gonna have like a loud noise to like scare you or unsettle you. But again, I'm interested to see when we get something that's not just weird. Because I don't know, like with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, it kind of set the bar a little high, unfortunately.
That's fair.
Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to kind of interpret it.
Yeah, I think Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the production value obviously is much higher and had much more, brains behind the narrative.
That's fair.
And was meant to, I feel like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, its purpose was more to relay a complex idea. And I think Salad Fingers is a lot more simplified than that.
Yeah.
It's mainly for some sort of condensed narrative rather than a commentary. So I feel like that also, I don't want to say, dampens the quality. I think for what Salad Fingers is, like I said before, what it's trying to do, it does very well. But I think the part of this episode that I want to get some opinions on, what happened towards the end, where Salad Fingers spoon was stolen by a crow or a raven. I could never tell the difference. And at first, he thought it was amusing. And then the child speaks for the first time in the episode, also finding it then amusing. And then all of a sudden, Salad Fingers has a breakdown in his house. And it seems like an odd course of events. Any thoughts, feelings, predictions, theories?
Is it the fact that she spoke so articulately that threw him for a loop? Because, like we've said, we haven't really heard anybody speak quite like him. Salad Fingers is the only other character that actually speaks well. So maybe that surprised him.
And you, Chris?
I don't know. Like, again, like it's interesting because so much of this, maybe it will make sense when we look back on it. I don't know. Like,
You're at a loss.
It's not that I'm at a loss. It's just these kinds of things it takes to get to right. It takes getting back into a right mindset to really, I don't know. These are the kinds of things for me that I have a hard time watching and analyzing and making predictions because, like, right now it feels like it could be anything.
That's fair. So, in that case, do you want to watch the next one? See how you feel then?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right. Let's do it.
So, this is the 6th episode of Salad Fingers. This episode is titled Present. It was posted 13 years ago.
So to eat Jeremy Fisher is to eat himself.
There's a lot to unpack in that one, huh?
Okay.
Do you feel like there's some more substance to work with now, Chris?
Maybe. I'm curious your thoughts first, Dustin, on that. Because that episode ended with him eating himself.
Yeah. So, and it began with him eating his finger puppet, which is essentially himself.
Himself,
and it came full circle to him eating himself.
His actual self. His the physical representation of Salad Fingers as the show has shown us.
It's almost as if it's you're getting a look into his tormented psyche if he's eating Jeremy Fisher. Like I said, he's eating himself. I don't know. It's weird. And the whole thing with the toilet, I don't know. Is he like talking to like a poop demon or something? I have no idea.
Well, it's like he was seeing something and he was interacting with it like one to one.
Reflection.
I mean,
this whole episode's kind of been himself and himself.
Right. Instead of being called present, it should have been called like doppelganger.
I think the horse was the present.
Oh, as in present, not
like a gift.
Not present, but present.
Yeah. I don't know if the inflection changes.
All right.
But yeah.
Present, but not present.
As in gift.
Sure.
Gift is in present, not like the present.
Yeah.
Not like presently there are presents in this room where we are all present. Not like that, right?
And they're presented to you.
The Three Stooges and Emma's the straight man. Emma just, yes.
Sure, whatever. I don't know.
And now I understand what present meant. But I want to know.
That's my interpretation.
I mean, that makes sense more than
and
like.
It could have a dual meaning.
Yeah, but
there's no reason why it couldn't.
I'm with you. Like in the present, not in the present makes less sense and is harder to show visually than a present as we would be interpreting.
There's also a mention about the Great War.
Yes,
right.
Yeah,
a couple of times, and that Jeremy went to fight it. And the way that I interpret this episode, or at least part of it, is after Salad Fingers eats the finger puppet the first time, he seems to make believe that the horse that he has been gifted, apparently, by the puppet of Jeremy Fisher, that it is a real horse that could take him places. Because after the scene with the toilet, he tells the horse to take him home and then continues to play with it. Almost like he's acting out something that had happened in the past. And then when he gets home and he sees the representation of Salad Fingers at the other side of the room, and then it's like the reverse shot, and sometimes we're seeing where we were originally standing, walking back into the house as Jeremy. And again, like, oh, I thought you were out fighting, the Great War, which I think brings up an interesting idea that he was potentially acting out something that had happened in the past as Jeremy.
So he maybe suffers from PTSD.
And that is a theory that I think is the most prevalent that I've seen online.
Huh.
And I think
that he has PTSD?
That is what I see a lot of.
So Salad Fingers fought in the Great War and got disfigured.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We could see that.
Oh.
We could see that the Great War potentially caused some sort of apocalypse. I think we talked about in the last episode that the scape looks very apocalyptic, and there seems to be a lot of deformed characters, which could also.
I mean, he's like a living corpse, though. Like if he's because that's the thing. Salad Fingers he's like I mean, in a lot of ways, because it was something I asked last time we talked. It was like, is this a mask with Guy's eyes poking out of it or not? Because he looks so emaciated, it's like he's a skull.
I could see. We're looking at the image of his face right now.
It's just sitting on our screen, emblazoned for us to see. Yeah. Hey, you did it. That was pretty good, Dustin.
I like that. Yeah.
For those of you that are not able to see Dustin because this is the audio media,
you did a really good impression last time.
Oh
too.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
yeah.
put them together.
I think it's interesting for me with this that. Now we might be looking at like someone who suffered trauma. So that kind of spins this in a weird way. I mean, I'm not going to say like clearly he suffered trauma because there's something wrong with him, but like there's something immensely wrong with him.
Salad Fingers needs professional help.
I don't know if there is professional help for him.
You're probably right.
Got him, as they would say.
So with that theory in mind, I think we should start episode 7.
Okay. So episode 7 is aptly titled Shore Leave. It was posted 5 years ago.
So there was a bit of a jump. Yeah. And I think this is where you start to see a shift in narrative. So,
well, now I think we have a better idea of what his brother, again, like what,
well,
is there going to be an obvious answer, or is it going to be, okay, let me ask you something. Because again, like this is something you have a frame of reference for, obviously, because you were there for Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. It feels like when the jig is up and you kind of know what the score is with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, it makes sense. Like, I get it. I can see logically A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Got it. Is it going to be like that with this? Is there that? Or is it like more esoteric and just kind of like, well, maybe it means this?
I would say it leans esoteric, but it has been a hot minute since I've watched it all the way through.
Okay.
So I might be misremembering. I don't remember it being like too on the nose. I remember, there needing to be like fan theories in order to sort of decipher.
Okay.
People were still kind of confused on what it all meant.
Okay. Yeah, because that's my thing. It's like, for me, it's one of those things where all I want to do is know, is there going to be something here more than what we're getting? And as long as it's like, yeah, it's a little bit more than this, okay. Because like, again, like if this is how they're going to do the revealing of things, it's like,
I mean, there definitely will be more to go off of as we continue.
Okay.
It's sort of, at this point, as I said, like you can kind of feel a little bit of a shift in narrative.
Yes, totally.
It's a little bit more straightforward than any of the other episodes.
This one, you mean moving forward or so far?
So far, out of all the ones that we've watched, I think this one is the most straightforward. It feels the most cohesive in narrative.
Yeah. Well, there's things happening that like need to be, yeah, totally.
And so you can definitely see that like there's been a lot of growth on the creator's side, in terms of, presenting a narrative. And that does continue.
Okay.
So do you want to make any updates to the current theory? Because I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that the Great War obviously has a lot to do with this.
Yeah, there was evidently a Great War, or one going on. Kenneth doesn't seem, although he mentioned Kenneth as his brother, doesn't seem to be in similar form. He's got hair. He kind of looks more human.
You could tell that it's the corpse of a human. What I want to point out is Salad Fingers obviously very much likes to name objects and refer to certain things by like names that we don't really have a frame of reference for. And
he just like comes up with names like da 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 da, like da da.
That's what it seems.
Yeah,
like.
It's like very just like train of thought, like just words, like word jumble, not word jumble because they all make sense, but it's like just like verbal diarrhea.
It's very much like a child playing with dolls.
Yep.
Right.
I think is what it evokes. But I do think it's interesting to wonder if he saw this corpse and just was like, this is now going to be the representation of my brother. Like it might not have actually been the corpse of his brother, but I think it's safe to say that he probably did have a brother that went to the Great War.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be talking about it.
Either that or maybe, exactly. Either that or maybe he is Kenneth.
Oh.
There's a lot, I think with the episode prior, it's really hard to see where these characters start and where Salad Finger ends, I suppose.
Yeah, he does kind of step outside himself a lot.
Well, they're all like essentially representations of himself, right? Because he has the finger puppets. And we've seen in the last episode, he eats one of them. And then another version of him creates or exists, maybe?
I think it's all in his head.
Hallucinations also play a large role.
Right. Yeah, they do that filtery thing where they kind of wash it out with white to show that it's in a dreamscape or in his head or something to that effect.
But I definitely think that the PTSD angle is very strong, at least at this point with the information we have so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't explain his fascination with rust or texture.
No, I've kind of gotten away from that.
I'm wondering, because I don't remember if that is better explained moving forward, and I'm curious to see if that is explained, because like I said, it's been a hot minute. If they do circle back to that and give that more of a purpose, or it could have just been like this was the throwaway gag of the early episodes for the sake of being creepy and weird.
Okay. But so there may have been some of that though, right? Like
I think so. And I think like
Not everything
I don't
is
wanna
leading to something.
I don't want to say that everything before, the 10-year, 9-year gap is irrelevant, because I think it definitely was world building, but I wouldn't take all of it, completely seriously.
Yeah, because there's a pretty big gap in all of this, right?
It's a really big gap between the start of the series and where the series wound up going.
So you said it was like 14, and then all of a sudden the last one was
5 years.
5? Jeez, Louisiana. That's insane.
I think it makes sense that the original series ended where it did. It ended with Salad Fingers eating a representation of himself. And I think that is a really good bookend for a creepy miniseries. And so it makes sense that was closing out that chapter. And so this could be, the new interpretation of the same character.
So kind of like when they came back with "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared" on the show versus the YouTube series.
That's what I remember it being like, because I wanted to re-experience this with you guys, so I didn't rewatch it. And I think I watched all of these maybe 3 or 4 years ago, all the way through. So, like I said, it's been a while. But do you want to continue?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think that what's interesting for me in all of this is, again, like, now that we're seemingly trending towards maybe something more narrative, like, it reminds me a lot. And this is why I was like, oh, this is what this reminds me of. It reminds me of Noel Fielding's character, Old Greg.
I'm Old Greg.
Doesn't it? I'm Old Greg. I got a mangina. Like, it's so that, like, now I can't see this as anything else. And it's not nearly as disturbing.
I know what you're talking about.
Right.
I don't know who showed it to me. I could not tell you where that character is from, but I do know what you're talking about. I have seen some clips.
It's good.
Somebody showed it to me at some point.
It's good. I mean, it's weird. I mean, it's kind of like this. It's kind of weird. It's more of like weird for weird's sake. But yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's just like, again, British and weird.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. This is clearly... And this is something we kind of haven't mentioned. It's like coming clearly from British sensibilities as well. Because like Salad Fingers is British. David Firth, clearly British, because he's the one who does the voice for Salad Fingers. So there is I think, uniquely British sensibility to this.
Is David Firth British?
You ever drunk Bailey's from an old show?
Yeah, right? Love games.
He is English.
Love games.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just an accent he was putting on. No,
if that's an accent, he's doing a real cool accent. I don't know what that is. I just wanted to see Emma's reaction.
That was a little My Fair Lady.
I mean, yeah, but it's like, that's the kind of British accent that I can do, is like, hello, want a little Robin Tub then? Like, like that's, like, cast me in that movie for 5 minutes. Give me 2 lines.
Yeah, the remake of My Fair Lady where you're one of the ensemble.
I don't think they ask for rubbin' tugs in My Fair Lady, but maybe we're talking about different movies. I don't know.
I will say in this last Salad Fingers episode, things were getting kind of weirdly sexual with that corpse.
Oh.
He kept, just saying weird things that...
he was.
I mean, he was talking to a corpse. Yeah, he was
kind of coming on strong.
Talking to a corpse is weird, yeah? Like, I'm sorry. This is a weird tangent, but I kind of want to ask it. Like, being around a dead body's weird, yeah?
Yes, I've been around one dead body once in my life, and that was at my grandmother's funeral, and it was very strange and very surreal.
What is it called when you sit with the body after they pass away?
A viewing?
No. There's like a thing where you can like sit with it overnight.
Oh,
I don't know. Like Italians do it. I think it's in Jewish and Italian, and I think Spanish as well, where it's like you stay up with the body the night before, and like, I'm sorry, like it just freaks me out.
I don't think that's a thing in Judaism.
Good then, because you don't have to worry about someone doing that at your funeral. Because it's like, it's fucking weird to me to be around dead bodies. Like, I'm sorry. So like seeing Salad Fingers being so blasé is just.
I think being around a dead body, there's a time limit before it's like hugging too long. It's like, okay, it's time to walk away.
Yeah,
and
I would
being
agree
around
with that.
It's a very short time limit. Just I want to make that clear. It's not like 60 seconds and it's like, okay,
3 hours.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I saw my grandfather and my mom's mom, my dad's dad and my mom's mom, but I didn't want to see my dad's mom. Like, I didn't want to see it. Like, it just, like, that's not the way I want to remember the person. That's maybe my thing with it. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm the same way
Okay.
because when we put my dog down back in like 2019, I was my senior year of college, and my parents were like, "Do you want to come home for when we have to put down, the family pet?" And I said no. I didn't want to be there for that because I had my goodbye with him. I knew that he was on his way out because he had
Right.
a pretty nasty seizure that really killed his quality of life. And so I was aware. And so I kind of had my goodbye with him. And then there was no need for me to come home to relive that grief, So I can relate. I've always been very squeamish with death in general. Brings up weird thought patterns.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm not like I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I don't want to, that's not the way I want to remember someone. And that's like the last thing. And so it's a little much,
I get it. I do.
What you, Dustin?
What about me?
What's your stance on dead bodies? ?
Yeah.
I guess.
I was expecting you to say something like pace gray.
Yeah.
Oh. That was more putting you on the spot for a clever answer, not a serious one.
I don't have
Drop the
much
ball.
of
It's
one.
okay.
Well, leave them where they lie. I don't know.
Things that you would say about corpses and Legos if you want to make parents angry. Survey says, leave them where they lie. So,
Is this Who's Line?
or no, it's a family. Is that Family Feud?
Yeah.
It's called? Yeah. Is that what it is?
I think they also did that in Who's Line.
Probably.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like make the joke about it.
Yeah.
Never seen that show.
You've never seen Who's
Not
I've
like-
seen Who's Line and you
Not like a
haven't?
full episode. I've seen like gags.
I stumbled across it on like the old TV when I was like, I don't know, 7.
TV?
Didn't know what the hell I was watching, didn't get any of the jokes, but it
Ryan
was
Stiles,
entertaining.
Colin Mockery, Wayne Brady.
Drew Carey. Boy, that's a blast from the past. God. They have Who's Line now, right? Isn't there like a new version of it?
I think there is a new version, and I haven't seen it. I feel like most people would probably say that it's not quite the same, but I'm glad they're keeping it alive.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's an improv show, right? Like,
Yeah.
so,
I mean, that's what YouTube's for.
right. Well, I mean, yeah, and TikTok and yeah, and any short form media, anything, right? You don't need TV to promote yourself, folks. You're listening to a podcast, radio on the internet.
I haven't turned on a TV in ages,
That's fair. I mean,
unless if it was to access Netflix.
that's like to go on the TV. Yeah, that's fair.
I haven't flipped through channels except when I was on a plane
Well, we're
because I literally had nothing better to do.
we're coming in for landing, and any of you youngins who don't know what a TV is, check out that we got the satellites on this plane, guys. Check out, you can watch TV.
Look at all these crazy channels.
Yeah, right.
Look at all this variety, and yet nothing to watch.
Jesus. So speaking of things to watch, shall we watch one more episode?
I think we can fit in one more.
All right. So this 8th episode is titled Cupboard. Salad Fingers receives some unpleasant frequencies from his radio. And ladies and gentlemen, 2 years ago, David Firth posted salad, green heart, fingers, green heart, plushies, green heart, over at saladfingersstore.com, a real website where you can buy stuffed animal versions of Salad Fingers. Thank God there's no Rule 34 of Salad Fingers. There totally is. I take that back. Fuck me.
Why would you even say it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I said it. Mistake. Let's just watch the episode titled Covered. It was such a mistake. Go back to your idiot hole, bro.
What's real mean of you?
I mean,
What's real
he eats
insensitive?
kids.
Since when? Except maybe that first
Since
episode.
I
where
think-
he maybe ate a kid.
Since I think
maybe.
all of them, because it sure seems like he has a collection of something that people who kill people take.
It's one of its very special hairs.
That's good, dude.
That was pretty good, Dustin.
That's real good. I mean, I'm not sure that's one that you can crack out in polite company and or with children, but unless you want to go to bed, or Daddy Salad Fingers will get you.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a very niche party trick.
You have to put the daddy in there. Or just call him Daddy Fingers, which is
Oh.
even worse.
Chris, your mind
No,
is a terrible
these are the same
place.
people that came up with the phrase "daddy wise" for when people are like lusting for. It's like lusting for Pennywise. It's that same thing. It's just like you fuckers. Like again.
Some people just want to be eviscerated by a clown. People lame.
They want to be eviscerated. You know, Emma, you're right. Put that on a
Thank
fucking
you.
shirt. Put that on a fucking shirt and print it, because that's awful. No, and there's the thing. They want to be eviscerated by a clown sexually.
Yeah, no shit.
I know. It's like I don't want to yuck anybody's yums because I don't.
You're yucking a yum.
I don't
now,
want-
Chris. Somebody's yum right now is being yucked.
Other podcasts on this network have the perception of being yum yuckers. We here at Scary Stories We Tell are not yum yuckers, folks.
If you want to be eviscerated by a clown in a sexual way, we support.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know what? You want to do that? Cool. But honestly, though, like that for me is just, it's a little weird. That's just a little weird. That's just a little weird.
Anyway, tangent aside.
Well, but again, like what's weird is like we're making excuses for Salad Fingers, but Salad Fingers is eating kids, right? They're trying to make but I was leading up to a point because like they're trying to make us feel empathetic towards Salad Fingers, but he eats kids, right? Like he murders kids, yeah? Like that's what makes him an interesting character by my approximation.
I don't think that is necessarily as canon as it was in the first few episodes. That felt more very early on, and I'm not sure if that's still a relevant part of his character. It could have been something that was ultimately retconned. I don't think it's something they revisit. And I think the better focus of this episode is what does the radio represent?
Right.
And to me, it sounded like an abusive parent.
Well, and is the like what I couldn't tell is the radio him? Like its voice.
It sounded like a different voice.
Okay.
To me, it sounded like a parental figure.
Okay. Fair.
I don't know if gender matters. It was a male's voice, but I don't know if it represents, necessarily a father versus a mother. But it definitely sounded like some sort of abusive parent.
Right.
And then it's weird because Salad Fingers tends to come off as somebody with like all of these polite mannerisms. The way that he speaks, how he carries himself, and also he's very quick to judge others for being dirty.
Right.
That comes up a lot. And so the moment that he's being ridiculed that his house is filthy, he shuts down.
Yeah. And he kind of cowers.
And to me, that screams PTSD from abuse in some sort of familial situation.
Sure.
And I think the other important thing to note is where it said, give me back one of my hairs, or give me back, you have one of my hairs, give it back, or I'd like it back. And so that makes me think that the collection of hair could have been members of the family who had lived in the house prior. I don't necessarily think it's children that he's killed. I think it might be more so of like a hair from his mother, a hair from his father, a hair from his brother, a hair from his sister, because that's how I see it. Because if this is his home, it would make sense that other people might have lived in it prior. And especially if it's post this great war, a lot of people, it seemed like a lot of people have died.
His family got wiped out.
Which I think is a strong possibility. And so the radio, he could be, personifying the static of the radio, because it was very fuzzy to hear. And so obviously, I'm not saying that like the ghost of a relative was like controlling the radio. I think it could have been more of an auditory hallucination that he was having because of PTSD.
Interesting.
And then I think he eats the hair to avoid having to get rid of it otherwise. And that way he could be closer to his family members.
Or does that represent getting rid of him so he doesn't have to talk to him anymore?
It could have been that. It could have just been a genuine act of defiance, just in general.
Screw you, Dad.
But I do think that this definitely opens up a broader conversation of mental health. I feel like that's the shift that we've taken.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that we have something that is entertaining, but also maybe talking about that, or at least like the character is dealing with it in a way that's not just like, I don't know, but it is entertainment.
Right? I think it's a very interesting way to tell a very confusing narrative. They didn't at all detract from the creepy. It's still creepy. It's still weird, but they're doing less but saying more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like it's more focused. Like they know more of what they want specifically. I mean, again, I'm assuming it's like Dave for the one guy. But I mean, again, one has to sit here and just essentially look and say, all right, we're moving in a direction now where it seems like he has a purpose and a intent behind what he's showing us, and it may be going towards something. And it definitely feels that way.
So are you more invested at this point? Because but at the beginning of this episode, you seemed very take it or leave it.
I am. I mean, again, I just didn't know how much longer they could continue with the gap.
I think it's evolved past a gap.
Right. I agree, but it had to get there, and we had to get through the point where it was a gag is also,
right. I mean, because that was Newgrounds. Newgrounds was all about gags and shock humor. Like, that was animation on Newgrounds. And I think YouTube allows people to sort of create whatever content they want. And especially if you're already like a creator of an anticipated series, you're kind of given that freedom to do what you want with it, with a platform that will reach ultimately more people.
Right. Well, and I'm of the mindset where I would go wherever I can as the creator to be able to tell the story however I want. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a limitation to be on YouTube, obviously, but it also allows them to just do kind of whatever and not be beholden to traditional storytelling measures either.
Right.
So that's why you can kind of just be fucking weird for weird's sake and go nowhere with it. I mean, Adult Swim doesn't exist. That's like Adult Swim at its core in a lot of ways. It's like being transgressive and subversive, but I mean, this is at times both subversive and transgressive. So I'm enjoying this a lot more than I was before. What about you, Dustin?
Yeah, I'm kind of, with this whole angle of it, I'm kind of interested in, I don't know, seeing how it's explored further and if it just keeps getting worse or if it starts to resolve itself a little more. It's kind of where I'm at.
Where do you think the logical next step would be if you had to make a guess?
Well, talking about what we're talking about with PTSD, abusive parents, he's trying to suppress some of that, it seems like. It's either going to continue, like, start to boil over more. Like, he was getting frustrated with Hubert Cumberdale. I see more, like, anger coming out. So, I don't know, this next episode or two, he might flip out a little bit.
And what about you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, again, like, it obviously is going in a direction. There is something that it is now driving at. But I'm very curious. I'm curious where this ends up because there's only, 9 through 14. So it's not that there's not a lot left, but there's not as much as there was at the beginning, and they're just now getting to the story. So I'm curious to see if they're able to get us to that point where the story makes sense along with the way they've been telling it, where it's kind of like giving it to us necessarily the most efficient way. I'm curious to see if they're able to make all of this work. Because again, like the way that they're doing it, they kind of got a late start on telling the story. And I'm wondering like if that's going to be a problem. Again, like they obviously do have plenty of shows out there that have nothing but these 5 to 6 minute episodes, but they only have 14. There is a finite amount. So I have to assume that they tell the entire story that they want to tell in this format. But I'm just curious. That's all. If they're able to make this work in a way that's, I don't know, that feels rewarding as a viewer. Because by watching Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, I felt rewarded as a viewer by the end of it for sticking with it through all of its problems, and also doing a little bit of extra work to go and watch the things about it that kind of answer some of the questions that I may have had. And I mean, this probably has that, but again, will it be as rewarding? Were those things there, or is this a little bit of reaching? That's what you can't know until the end. So I'm excited.
I definitely think that you're going to enjoy where it continues to go. I can't speak for how you're going to feel necessarily about how it ends, because I don't remember how it ends.
Fair.
But I do think you're going to like the direction it continues to go in. It really does. It never stops being surreal. It never stops leaning into the creepy factor, and it never stops blurring that line between, reality and hallucination, which I think is what makes the series so strong, is that you're never sure what you're seeing, if any of it is actually what is happening or if it's all a representation. Like there's no way to say whether or not how we perceive Salad Fingers is what Salad Fingers actually looks like in universe.
Right.
You know, there's nothing that we can go off of and say, like, without a doubt, at least in my opinion, of like what is concrete in this. I think the only thing that we can say is concrete is that Salad Fingers at this point is alone. And I think that really is like the only like one concrete thing that we can cling to. And everything else, it's really hard to say what is actually happening and what is some form of a hallucination or blurring the boundaries. And they keep pushing that bar, you know, further and further, which I think is really interesting.
Well, and again, like you said, I mean, I think it's also the stuff of him in his own head is also so interesting because they keep coming back to it. But I'm not sure if they ever do they get to a point where they explain that. I mean, is there more of that? Like, I'm enjoying that, but I'm also hesitant to get invested in it because it seems like they were doing it a lot before and now they haven't done it a lot now since the show has kind of come back.
I think that's going to be more of a personal opinion as we move forward. So I'm curious to see what you have to say about that as we continue.
Okay. Yeah. Because for me, it's like I like seeing those things because, they're a little kind of obtuse, but at the same time, that's totally my jam. Like, that's my kind of thing where it's like, oh, dream sequences and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's like the David Lynch stuff. This is a mix of a lot of really interesting things. But I don't know. Ultimately, all I know is I'm enjoying it. Also,
I'm glad.
You know, it does really strike me as Noel Fielding. Old Greg, so it really is like the voice is kind of the same, like whispery shit. I don't know how it's like a whisper voice.
It's whispery and effeminate, and I think like those are the two boxes that it checks off.
Yeah,
for both characters.
Totally, you're totally right.
Which makes it even funnier to me when Salad Fingers uses the terms gay and queer, but to mean happy and weird.
He uses them in the best way.
It's great.
It's too fun.
The way he speaks is a trip and a half, and I love it.
Again, it's painfully British.
It's like I can't tell if it's like real, like polite mannerisms or just like that fake polite mannerism to appear, you know, like they're of higher class,
right,
in a sense. Because that's like, I guess that's one other angle that I think is important to note is the way that the way that Salad Finger carries himself is very, if we were to use the British term, it feels posh.
Right.
And so that also makes you wonder, does he come from, you know, way back in the day, does he come from a more well-off background? So I think there's definitely a lot to unpack as we continue gathering, you know, data and evidence of what story this is trying to convey.
Yeah, it is a little bit more esoteric than Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, but I do like it's more of a character. It's more of like a character piece. It's like a focus singularly on Salad Fingers and him as a character. So
right, whereas like I said earlier, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is a commentary.
Right, like
it is. I think with the new series versus I think the YouTube series was more of a commentary.
I agree.
Or I would say a broader commentary. And I would say the TV series is a bit more of a narrower commentary and a character study. But Salad Fingers to me is like completely a character study with world building, like slight world building.
Right. Yeah. The world building has been minor at best. But again, it's not minor as in quality, just they're not letting that get in the way of talking about him, which is perfectly fine. Ultimately, like the character of Salad Fingers is the focus of the piece. The name of the piece is Salad Fingers, so Salad Fingers. I honestly, he's the character of the show. Like
I care significantly less about what happens outside of the house than what happens inside of the house.
Wait.
I care significantly less about what happens outside of the house. Okay. What happens inside of the house to me seems much more important than whatever was happening outside. You know, the picnic was outside and that was interesting, but it feels inconsequential in comparison to what we just watched.
That's fair. That's fair. But to be fair, all of the consequential stuff has more or less like happened inside the house.
Right. I mean, the baby-esque character proposing happened outside of the house.
That's fair. But that baby episode, a lot of it takes place in the house, though.
Yes, a decent amount of it does also take place.
Yeah. I will say I like that the quality of the show has ramped up a significant amount from that 7th to 8th episode. I mean, now we're talking like actual. It looks like there was something. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Like there was something that was added to the show by having it kind of grainy and gritty looking. It added to the quality. It added to the creep factor.
I kind of miss it.
But it looks. I mean, it's a good. I mean, I miss it, but at the same time, it's like, it also looks better now because it's in widescreen. It's in HD, essentially. Like, it looks good. So I'm glad.
It was a product of its time and a product of its original platform.
Totally.
And I guess there is a little bit of nostalgia that comes with that now, it is lacking. But I think ramping up in production quality does increase the... what's the word I'm looking for? The effectiveness of it for me personally, because it felt like with the original couple of parts that were made for Newgrounds, it was very much a story made for Newgrounds, where now it just feels like a story.
That's fair.
Which in my opinion, it's less restrictive because of that.
That's fair.
With the style of Newgrounds, it's very much like, what are we expecting from Newgrounds? But with this, he was able to revamp his style, refresh it, make it new, make it his own again.
Right.
And reclaiming the story and not just being driven by what he thinks will get a lot of views on Newgrounds, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I agree. There, like I said, the nostalgia factor as well as like that grainy quality does add more to the creepiness. But I think the level of detail that they're showing now, I think adds just the same level of creepiness, if not more. Like the details in his fingers. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah. No, I agree.
His fingers are so detailed.
I agree. Like, I appreciate it. It's a better looking show. I mean, I wasn't really
as good looking as Salad Fingers.
Right. I mean, that is the thing, right? It's like, well, ultimately, like, fucking Salad Fingers doesn't look great. It doesn't look great either way because he's not meant to look great, but he looks better in the newer episode, which I am appreciative of. I get it though, Dustin. Like, I do get it because like it did benefit from looking kind of shitty.
I think aside from just the creep factor, it just kind of gave it that
Internet archive,
almost like the setting that it is. If it is this dystopian post-war, like not everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, it's like that. I mean, they were using it a lot in those first couple episodes where it's like, it's clearly like someone using like a gramophone. It's like that. It had that quality to it, like that graininess you get from listening to vinyl.
Did you say grandma's phone?
Like the video, grandma's phone. Yeah. Hey, give me that there grandma's phone. But it had that quality. They were using that music. I mean, they were using it in those first couple episodes. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if this ends up being as interesting as Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. There's no more of this after 14, though, right? Like,
as far as I know, there are tons of theories as well. I do also want to note, I don't necessarily think it's fair to compare the series to Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. I think I understand why. It's the only other one of so far that that we have talked about. So it's a frame of reference, for all of us to discuss. So I understand the comparison, but I also think it's very much like the whole Apple Store.
Oh, I agree.
They are. So
I compare.
I'm more so saying that for the benefit of the audience.
Well, and that, I mean, I agree, but I think at the same time, like, they are both trying to do the same thing. They're both trying to tell a story, and they're both trying to tell a story in an unconventional way. And I don't think that either one of them is inherently unsuccessful. I think that they're both successful in their own respective ways, as they would say.
I would definitely say that Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared has a broader appeal, but I think it's meant to.
Yes.
Because again, it's supposed to mimic a children's show, and children's shows are supposed to have a very broad appeal.
Right.
So.
Agreed. And I mean, again, like, they're also operating in two different mediums. The expectations are different. I don't compare them as much like one-to-one as much as just like the evocation of the feeling that they're going for. And they are both successful in that regard. Because again, they are both trying to be creepy, weird, unsettling, any one of those words you could use to describe what they're doing. And they're both rather successful. I mean, I think, frankly, if we're talking about being creepy, weird, and unsettling, this takes the cake over Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. And this has committed to it longer. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared kind of gave up being scary after a while. Like, that wasn't the interest and the goal of the storytellers was to be scary. It was to tell, the story that they're telling. It was more gross than anything else. It had kind of gross out humor, but I don't think it was scary, in the way that this is. I mean, again, maybe this isn't scary, but this is unsettling. Don't hug me, I'm scared.
If there was one that you had to watch in a dark room alone with headphones on, and which one would you rather watch alone in a dark room with headphones on? I would definitely pick Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared over this.
Yeah, because it's like a more upbeat and bright show, ultimately, even at its core, outside of it kind of being subversive. So this is just kind of like, it's one note, but it's playing that one note rather well. And that's not exactly a note that's necessarily easy to hit to begin with. So,
and it's not one that's hit off.
No, I mean, it's hit on YouTube and stuff more often because that's where these kinds of things tend to be. But that's also because, again, like we mentioned, this kind of thing would never end up anywhere else. Like, who's going to put this on the air other than something like an Adult Swim? So
on that note, I think that's a safe place to wrap up. I'm very excited to finish this. I don't know if we're going to finish it because the episodes get a little longer. I don't think we're going to finish this in one more episode of this show. I think it's probably going to be split into at least another 2.
Yeah, I think
that will cover this.
Go all the way to the last episode and then do the last.
This next one is almost 10 minutes long, so I think we're probably going to have to cover a few less. But I'm really excited to continue watching this with you guys and going on this journey. So I'm glad that you're enjoying the ride now, at least.
He's a gentle green man, long fingers. He sure is. He sure fucking is. No, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. What about you, Dustin? Are you enjoying it? You got Shanghai in
Well,
this.
what I've liked about it is not only just the episodes themselves, but I like our discussions about it because it's gone from something that's kind of nonsensical to something that's like, oh, wow, there really is a little picture into this character's mind, but the creator's mind as well.
And that's what I love about this series is not just like reacting to creepy shit on the internet for creepy's sake, but finding the meaning within it and discussing it. And I was always into the whole like theory hunting and lore hunting. And so that definitely scratches that itch for me personally. So I love doing this. This is really fun for me.
I like watching those. I like watching those videos on YouTube. People that talk about like the deep Tumblr lore shit. That shit trips me out. Like John Locke, the John Locke conspiracy.
Oh.
And Emma, fucking shaking your head because you know what it is. You know it's true. That 4th episode will be coming. We promise. Fucking wild, dude.
I know of it and I stay away from.
Yeah. Internet theories and fan theories are a deep, dark hole to fall down, folks.
Well, they're a fun one.
Yeah.
If you have hours of
right, if you
spare.
You've got like 10 hours to listen to someone tell you why one group of people on the internet thought 2 fictional characters were magically gay for one another. Yeah. Couldn't do anything better with your time. I suppose, I guess. So it's 2. But yeah, no, I guess the next time you hear the 3 of us, we'll be doing close to the end of Salad Fingers. So until then, weirdingwaymedia.com is where you can find this show, but scarystorieswetell.com is where you can go for everything else about this show. Big thanks as always to Dustin, who's here.
I'm here.
And Maggie for the album artwork for the show, along with our good friend Alex Malnack. Hey, we know that guy, Dustin.
That guy.
We know that guy. If you're listening, Alex, we know you. And you can find him and his band Blondos kicking it in the Midwest, but also over on Spotify. Just search Blondo. Yeah. And as always, until we talk to Salad Fingers again, we'll let our good friend, the former host of Sightings, Mr. Tim White, lead us out.
No mystery is closed to an open mind.